I ain't got a man. I ain't got... Oh, sorry, you caught me during my bath time. And I am so excited today because we are getting to check out filming locations for not just my favorite vampire movie, but probably my favorite horror movie of all time. And it's one that I've been wanting to make a video on for so long. Will you hold on? I'm in the tub right now. Jeez. Anyways, today we're checking out filming locations for the 1987 vampire classic, The Lost Boys. Let's go see what we can find. Right behind me is the Santa Cruz Boardwalk, and I'm definitely no stranger to this place. I've been coming here with my wife since way back when we were still dating, and then after our son was born, it just kind of continued and became a family tradition, and we come here at least once a year, and a lot of scenes from The Lost Boys were filmed here at the Santa Cruz Boardwalk, including the very first scene of the movie. David and the boys end up getting into a little scuffle with some other hooligans on the boardwalk, and the security guard takes it out on David, which of course is a big mistake. The security guard's walking back to his car after the boardwalk closes, and the camera flies over the Giant Dipper to show the security guard walking in this parking lot. As he's walking back to his car, something is swooping down on him from above. Lucy, Sam, and Michael are traveling right here on Cliff Drive on their way into Santa Carla. And as one of Lucy's favorite songs comes on the radio, they notice the Santa Carla billboard letting them know that they've arrived. Now, that Santa Carla billboard was right here where the Surfer Monument now is. And as they pass by where the Surfer Monument now is, Michael turns his head and he notices on the back of the Santa Carla sign, it says Murder Capital of the World. This area right behind me used to be the Fun Spot, which was the gas station that we see them stopping at on their way into Santa Carla. And at some point, I believe in the early 2000s, the Fun Spot was torn down and turned into the Fun Spot Skate Park. And I know that because I have video of me skating at that skate park sometime in the mid-2000s. So I was there, I saw it with my own eyes. Now, just about everything that you see in the movie is gone, everything's been torn down. But when Sam is running into the gas station, you can see a bridge right behind the gas station and a car driving across the bridge. And if we look right around behind this building, there's the bridge. And that's probably the only thing left in this area that you see in the movie. At one point during that scene, Lucy gives Sam some money to go give to some homeless kids. And behind them, you can see an apartment building and some cars parked on a side street going uphill. And here's those cars on the side street going uphill. And across the street, you can see that apartment building is now gone. But if we go back to that footage of me at the skate park, luckily my wife got sick of watching me skate and she spins the camera around and there's that apartment building, the very one that we see in the movie. Now, throughout the rest of the credits, they continue to show some of the real-life locals of Santa Cruz, along with some of the rides at the Santa Cruz Boardwalk. There's a very short scene in the movie where we see a couple of people walking down the sidewalk right here before the camera slightly tilts up and we see a whale snout sticking out of the side of the building. Unfortunately, the whale snout is no longer there. However, there is a whale mural once again painted on the side of this building. And I think probably the coolest part of that scene is you see this building right over here while it's still being built. And I gotta say, I love that building. It is so 80s looking. The spot that she's walking by was the T-shirt factory, a custom T-shirt shop that was here in Santa Cruz for many years, and it was owned and operated by legendary airbrush artist Dennis Raniero. The camera is focusing on this town off in the distance. It then pans to the right and we see Sam and Lucy driving on this road with Michael riding behind them on his motorcycle, because that seems like the bright thing to do, to ride on your motorcycle right behind the car as it kicks the dirt up in your face. But anyways, the camera continues to pan right and we see Grandpa's house. Michael would have been riding his motorcycle right here on this road, and here it is. This is Grandpa's house. Now, luckily it is still here for us to enjoy, but it has seen better days. It's not in too good a shape, but man, it is so cool to see this in person. And just so you know, in case you decide to come visit Grandpa's house, it is about a half-a-mile hike. It's a paved trail with a slight incline, but yeah, it's a really easy walk. So they arrive here at Grandpa's house, and Lucy's a little disturbed when she sees her dad lying on the front porch, and Sam and Michael joke that maybe he's dead and they can go back home. But of course, he wasn't dead, he was just playing dead and doing a damn good job of it. It's so cool just to stand here on this property and look around and think about how it looked when they had it dressed up for the movie. The next night at the boardwalk, everyone's having a blast watching a super buff and oiled up saxophone player sing I Still Believe. And it was right here on this stretch of sand where everyone was having a great time watching Tim Capello dance around the stage. And that stage that he's dancing on is no longer here. It used to be a permanent fixture at the Santa Cruz Boardwalk, but like a few other things that we talked about in this video, it was damaged during an earthquake and had to be torn down. But it would have been right here in front of me where Tim Capello made history. And it's during that performance that Star shows up to the beach, and Michael is completely mesmerized by her. He watches as she walks up the steps, and it's these steps right here that she would have been standing on watching the show. And as she's watching the show, she realizes that Michael's staring at her, and obviously she gets a little creeped out and realizes she should probably get the heck out of there while she still can. Now, most likely it would have been just after that where we would have had this deleted scene where we get to see just how creepy Michael can be and just what an amazing conversationalist he is.
Are you following me?
Yeah, I am.
Did you want to talk to me?
Yeah, I do.
We'll talk.
All right.
Wow, compelling dialogue.
Mom's here.
Uh-oh.
Nice talking.
Wait.
Wait.
She wants me.
Meanwhile, Lucy's taking a lovely nighttime stroll on the pier that's right across from the boardwalk. She would have been walking along right here. You can see the boardwalk in the background behind her. And as she's strolling along the pier, she notices somebody hanging up a missing poster for the security guard that we see in the beginning of the movie. And right here was that bulletin board where she was hanging up the missing poster. It's good to see that they've cleaned up the crime around here. And it's right about then when Lucy notices a missing child and she goes over to see if she can help him find his mother. The camera would have been shooting right through this window, and this is of course the window of Max's video store. And we get the best shot of Max's video store during another deleted scene where we see Lucy walking out of the video store, and she's then surrounded by David and the other boys, and they continue to circle her and taunt her. But in the beginning of that scene, we get a clear shot of what the outside of Max's video store looked like. And this is it right here. Back in 1987, this was Max's place, and it's still pretty recognizable. Now, unfortunately, the inside of the store looks nothing like it did right here is where David and the other boys were walking into the store. It no longer has those tubes of neon or TV walls. It now just looks like a normal gift shop. Right back here is where that TV wall would have been. So a few moments later, Lucy comes walking into the store with the little boy to see if possibly his mother might be inside the video store. Now, although the inside of the store looks nothing like it did, the employee that works here, who is extremely nice, told me that these are the exact same counters that we see in the movie. So notice that rounded corner right there where Marco's leaning, and then look at this corner right here. So these may possibly be those same counters. I can't say for sure, but it's definitely possible. Meanwhile, back at the boardwalk, assuming that deleted scene never happened, Michael is still following Star, and we see Michael and Sam walking right in front of the Haunted Castle ride. If you look just beyond those giant heads, you can see the ride. And this is what it looks like today. It's definitely been remodeled since the movie was made. And that's about the time that Sam finds the comic book shop, and we're led to believe that the comic book shop is located on the boardwalk right next door to the Haunted Castle. But it was actually located right here where this empty lot now is. It was also damaged in the earthquake and had to be torn down, and it's been an empty lot ever since. Now, what they did for the movie was they put a fake wall in front of the comic book shop and a Laughing Sal animatronic to give it the appearance that it was on the boardwalk. So this is where the shop was, and it's probably pretty safe to assume that right about where this truck is, that's where they put the fake wall. And again, that was to block the scenery across the street, which right now is a shopping center. I'm not sure if this is what it was at the time, but you get the idea. And although the original shop is gone, Atlantis Fantasy World still very much exists here in Santa Cruz. And they're definitely not shy about being the comic book shop used in The Lost Boys. You can see they have a flyer in the window showing some of the locations that you can see around town. And as soon as you walk in the door, if you look to the right and look up, you'll find an autographed picture of Sam and the Frog Brothers, along with the original Vampires Everywhere comic used in the movie and the Vanity comic book that was used for the insides. And if you ask really nice, they might even take the comic book down and let you touch it. That's right, this is the original screen-used comic book. And Atlantis Fantasy World is still owned and operated by Joe Ferreira, who makes a quick cameo in the movie. You can see him right here in the background playing pinball. And he's still at the shop on most days and will gladly share some Lost Boys stories with you. Meanwhile, Michael is still on the hunt for Star. We see Star walking out of the boardwalk with Laddie, and you can see the sign has changed. It obviously doesn't say Santa Carla, and that ticket booth that she's walking away from, that was right here up until really recently when they replaced it with this ride. She's walking away from the ticket booth with Laddie, and then she meets up with David and the rest of the boys who are parked right outside of the carousel. They would have been parked right here where this bike rack now is. Michael's walking just across from the carousel. Notice that number 3 on the wall behind him. He would have been walking right here, and then there's that very colorful number 3. And as David looks over at Michael and gives him that grin, you can see the carousel right behind him. And as Michael looks over and realizes that Star is with David, you can see this snack shop right behind Michael. They all fire up their motorcycles and they ride off out of the boardwalk. Now the carousel building has changed a little bit. It was all windows. It's now more enclosed, but this is the road that they ride away on. Does this spot look familiar at all? Well, remember the hooligans from the beginning of the movie that David gets into a little scrap with? Well, a bit later in the movie, they steal a comic book, and the leader and his girlfriend come here to read that comic book. Their car would have been parked right here, looking at the boardwalk. And while they're reading that comic, something swoops down from the sky and rips the roof off their car, and then sucks them up into the darkness of the night. In another deleted scene, we see a bunch of people lined up right across from the boardwalk as some guy is walking them down this path. A few seconds later, we see that Michael is one of the people that's lined up. He then follows the guy down the path out onto the beach. We then find out that Michael was there getting a job. He's now a guy who picks up trash on the beach right in front of the boardwalk.
Mom, your son's a garbage man.
What a responsible young man. Michael's back at the boardwalk and he's buying himself a leather jacket. Now notice that sign behind him, it says Bazooka. Here's that sign, it's been updated, but that's the same spot. This is where Michael was purchasing that leather jacket. Now once Michael gets the jacket, he continues walking down to the end of the shops and he stops to watch a girl get her ear pierced. You can see a hot dog stand behind him. This is where Michael was standing watching that girl get her ear pierced.
It's a ripoff.
Huh?
It's a ripoff.
A star finally comes up and starts talking to Michael. They decide they're going to go for a ride and get something to eat. And they were walking along right here. They stopped to get on Michael's bike, which was parked in front of this pillar. And that's when David and the other boys roll up and challenge Michael to keep up with their bikes. Now, as they're riding away, pay attention to this sign right here. There it is. Same sign, same shop more than 30 years later. This shop's actually been here since the mid-70s. Now they all ride away from the shops and down this set of stairs out onto the sand. Michael stops and thinks twice about it. Come on, Michael, you can do it. There you go. Now they've recently added these signs and all of these trash cans didn't used to be here and it all kind of takes away from the shot, but these are the stairs that they ride down. They then ride their motorcycles out onto the beach and wildly ride them across the sand in front of the boardwalk. Now, after a very long and very foggy motorcycle ride, they then try and kill Michael by getting him to ride off the end of a cliff. But then everything's okay. They take him to their cave where they live, which is actually a sunken hotel. And of course, that's where this scene takes place.
Maggots, Michael. You're eating maggots. How do they taste?
David then whispers something to Marco, who goes and gets a bottle of blood, and Michael shares a drink with David, even though Star specifically warns him that it's blood, but Michael tells her to kick rocks. So there's a bridge in Santa Cruz right at the end of the boardwalk that looks pretty similar to the one that they go to in The Lost Boys, and most people assume that that's the bridge. I even have a video of me taking my wife there in like 2001 and showing her the bridge because I fell for it myself. But the actual bridge is right here, just north of the San Fernando Valley and just down the street from Six Flags Magic Mountain. This is the Lost Boys Bridge. Now that Michael is becoming one of them, they bring him here to the bridge and they stop and park their motorcycles right down there at the end of the bridge. And notice all of those utility poles. Even though the scene is really dark, you can actually see some of those behind them when they get off their motorcycles. Notice that one right there behind Michael's head. Now they're all walking along the bridge right here, and notice that zigzag pattern on the beams. You can definitely see that in the movie. Now this is not the shot that you get under the bridge. That's definitely some movie magic. You can see the bridge is not actually that high. So they continue walking along the bridge. Again, you can see those beams behind him with the zigzag pattern, and that's when Michael wants to know what's going on. And it's right about then that they stop, and starting with Marco, one by one, they start jumping off the side of the bridge. And notice in that shot, Marco's right in between those two pillars. He would have been standing right here as he jumps off the side of the bridge. And as I mentioned, one by one, they all jump off the side of the bridge, but Michael can still hear their voices, so he walks over to the side and he looks down, and the shot that we get in the movie is a bit different than this, probably because that was filmed in a soundstage rather than out here on the actual bridge. Now remember, I mentioned that we're right down the street from Magic Mountain, and if we look up, you can see some of the roller coasters and the observation tower. Now we do get some shots looking underneath the bridge, and notice those cross beams. These match up perfectly with what we see in the movie. You know, that actually seems kind of fun. Maybe I'll give it a try while I'm here. Okay, yeah, this is pretty fun.
Fun, man.
Yeah, that's what I just said. It's pretty fun. Lucy and Max finally go on a proper date at a nice restaurant, and that takes place at the Olitas Cantina and Grill on the second story of this building. Look what I found walking up here. Check out the hours. Monday's closed. You know what today is? Monday. And tomorrow they open at noon, but we're leaving town first thing in the morning. Well, these things happen sometimes when you're filming out of town, especially when you don't bother to check the restaurant's hours ahead of time. Please learn from my mistake. But that's okay. You can look through the window and see it was right here at the hostess stand where Lucy is standing and talking on the phone. She calls Sam to check in, and while she's talking to Sam on the phone, you can see the boardwalk behind her. You can see the Giant Dipper, and like I said, she was right there. And if we turn the camera around, there's the boardwalk and there's the Giant Dipper off in the distance. And while she's on the phone with Sam, Michael comes floating in front of the window, which of course causes Sam to freak out, and I absolutely love this part.
He's gonna kill me!
He's trying to kill me! Anyways, Lucy comes running out of these doors. She tosses the phone back to the maitre d' and comes running out the front door, leaving Max sitting by himself. He looks out the window and he sees Lucy running to her car. Now, to give you a better idea, that's the front door that she comes running out of. Max would have been sitting on this side of the restaurant, looking out of one of these windows, looking at Lucy running to her car, which would have been parked somewhere over here. Now, this next location is probably one of the trickiest. We're just outside of Santa Cruz in a small town called Aptos, California. And I believe that right where these two houses now sit, this is where Max's house used to be. And over on this side would have been where the bridge was leading to Max's house. So as far as I can tell, where this house now is, that would have been the driveway. And where this house now is, that's where that bridge would have been. So probably right about here is where the bridge was leading to Max's house. And when Lucy's crossing that bridge, if we look across the street, you can see a house behind Sam while he's waiting in the car. And that's the house that you can see behind Sam. Look at the shape of it. That's how we know that we're in the right spot. So I'm pretty sure that Lucy and Sam come pulling into the driveway right here. It was that like big U-shaped driveway. And then right over there was the bridge that Lucy starts to cross. And then of course she almost gets attacked by Thorn. So yeah, it's a little bit tricky, but Max's house, long gone, but this is where it used to be. So we're now back in Southern California. Sam, Michael, and the Frog Brothers head to the cave to try and save Star and kill the head vampire. And we see them driving in Grandpa's convertible towards the edge of the cliff. They were driving right here. So as they get to the edge of the cliff, they park, and you can see a small mountain of dirt with a staircase that supposedly leads down to the cave. Now they would have parked right here on the right side, and then that small mountain of dirt would have been pretty much directly in front of me. So as they're exploring the cave, they discover all the vampires sleeping, hanging upside down, and they climb up and they kill one of the vampires, starting with Marco, my favorite. Now this of course pisses off David, and he swoops down and attacks Sam, but Sam is able to break free, and they come running out of the cave just in the nick of time. Of course, the vampires are unable to follow them yet because it's still daylight. Now they jump in the car and they're speeding away in a panic, but Sam has the car in reverse and they almost go right off the edge of the cliff. He then throws the car in drive and they take off the other direction. They would have been driving right here. You can see this whole area has been developed since then. Now for this next scene, we find ourselves at the Warner Brothers back lot in Burbank, California. Sam and the Frog Brothers are riding their bikes down this street. They then pass by this house on the corner, which is the Growing Pains / Gremlins / Monster Squad house. They then drop their bikes and run through the front doors of this church. Now we never actually see the exteriors of this church, but we see them run inside and fill up their canteens with holy water. Meanwhile, back at the cave, the vampires are awake now and ready for blood. While preparing for the arrival of David and the other boys, Sam realizes that he left Nanook tied up outside, and they run out to save him, but it's too late. David and the other vampires are swooping down on Michael and Sam. There's now a huge battle inside Grandpa's house where they kill each vampire one by one, and this would have been filmed inside of a soundstage on the Warner Brothers backlot. Now after they kill all the other vampires, what we think is the final battle is between Michael and David. So after Michael finally kills David, but nothing changes, they realize that David wasn't the head vampire, and there's still one left, and it's Max. Max puts Sam in a chokehold and reaches out for Lucy's hand. Lucy doesn't know what to do. She wants to save Sam, and right as Max is about to bite Lucy's neck, just in the nick of time. Grandpa comes crashing through the front of the house, and some of those wooden stakes that he had been making for the fence go flying through the living room, piercing Max through the heart, and finally killing the head vampire.
One thing about living in Santa Carla I never could stomach. All the damn vampires.
Oh my gosh, this comic is so terrifying. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching that video half as much as I enjoyed making it. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.